Right, so here is our overview of chapter 51. Chapter 51 and 52 have the same approximate beginnings, and they're very short, sharp verses which help us understand in a very startling way, I would say, the message which we are being fed. It's I believe that chapter 51 is talking about the coming of Ad-Din, which is God's system being vivified, and chapter 52, inshallah, we will see it's talking about actual judgment day, the final day. So we begin with chapter 51. It starts with a series of verses which seem to talk about the processes of Ad-Din. So it starts with وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوَةً, by the scatterers which scatter and broadcast. فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِكْرًا, and they lift heavy weights. فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا, and they flow with ease. فَالْمُقَسَّمَةِ أَمْرًا, and they distribute the commands. So this is the set of processes. Then it says, إِنَّمَا تُعَدُونَ لَصَدِيقٌ, verily what is promised is true. So here we can see that these processes are deeply connected with the coming of Ad-Din. As the next verse says, وَإِنَّ الدِّينَ لَوَقِيعٌ, verily Ad-Din is coming, it will come to pass. So by enacting these processes, obviously Deen is explained throughout the Quran, but in this chapter it is explained processually, and Ad-Din is seen to be a series of processes which we need to bring to life. We need to vivify it, as we saw in the last verse of the previous chapter. Then it says in verse 7, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبْكِ, by the heavens with its numerous parts. It's essentially a numerous set of parts. إِنَّكُمْ لَفِي قَوْلٍ مُخْتَلِفٍ, verily you are in a saying or a philosophy which is discordant. So here it's telling us that philosophizing will lead to these differences. That doesn't mean that philosophizing is a bad thing, but philosophizing without action, which has been promoted in the earlier part, will lead us nowhere. So this is confirmed by the next passage, which is from verse 9 to verse 14, which talks about the people who lie. يُؤْفَكُ أَنْهُ مَنْ أُفِيكَ قُتِلَ الْخَرَّسُونَ, woe to the falsehood mongers. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي غَمْرَةِ سَاهُونَ, they are wandering about in confusion. يَسْأَلُونَ أَيَّنَا يَوْمُ الدِّينِ, they are asking, when is Yawm al-Din? يَوْمَ هُمْ عَلَى النَّارِ يُفْتَنُونَ, it's a day where they will be tried over the fire. So basically these people, they are not putting things into action, they're just wandering about. So this chapter is saying we should put things into action, and it explains it in verse 15 onwards, which says إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّةٍ وَعُيُونٍ, they will be in the midst of gardens and spring. Who? The muttaqeen, those who have taken God. They have made taking God their way of life, and God gives them various pleasures for their taking God. This is talking about this life. So people who have taken God, they have enacted the processes, they will be given this as a reward. And they are told to observe the signs. From verse 20 to 21, they are told to observe the signs. It says, وَفِي الْأَرْضِ آيَاتِ لِلْمُقْتِنِينَ, so in the earth, in society, are signs for those who are certain. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ, and in yourselves will you not observe. وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ, and in as-sama, the skies is your sustenance. Now this could be talking about nature as well, because from nature we have the rain, and that brings about plants as well. Or it could be talking about the realm of ideas, where ideas bring forward the means by which you get your sustenance. Next we have a series of stories, verse 24 to verse 37, the story of Ibrahim and those who visited him with the wrath for the people of Lut. So that's quite major. That is quite major. That is talking about the promise given by Allah. So if we understand that and we relate it back to these processes, we can see that ultimately this is God's promise, that God will rain destruction on those who are oppressors. So we must be avoiding these kind of social philosophies. Then we have the story of Musa from verse 38 to 40. It just reminds us. Then we have the story of Ad, the story of Thamud, and then the story of Nuh, which is a bit strange considering that Nuh always comes before Ad and Thamud. Perhaps here the story of Nuh acts as a summation of these processes. This is perhaps what the fulk or the ship of Nuh is all about. So this chapter ends with a very interesting but very well known verse and passage. Starting from verse 55, it says وَذَكِّرْ, so vivify. It's the same as previously. So it says in in Surah Qaf, it says فَذَكِّرْ bil-Quran. Here it says وَذَكِّرْ, so vivify. فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So verily a dhikr will benefit those who have believed. Then it says وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I've created al-jinn and al-ins, I have not created al-jinn and al-ins except that they may serve me. So here we can see that the jinn and ins aspect of ourselves is required for us to bring the dhikr to life. Next verse continues, مَا أُرِدُ مِنْهُ مِنْ رِزْقٍ. I do not seek sustenance from them. وَمَا أُرِدُ أَنْ يُتِمُونَ. Nor do I desire that they feed me. So it's the opposite. We desire sustenance from Allah, and we desire that Allah feed us. And here, how do we do it? We do it by serving Him, by establishing dhikr. And dhikr brings benefit for those who work with it, the believers. Again, this is not a religious term. This is something which is in reality itself. If you believe in the message, you work towards it, you will see the results. So there we have it. This is chapter 51, which is quite clearly about an earthly judgment and not a post-earth judgment. Let's move on to chapter 52 to see the contrasting view.